Hey, welcome back, Matt Moscona YouTube channel. Thrilled to bring you another whiskey review. And tonight in particular, I am so extremely fired up because tomorrow I have my very first ever interview on a podcast to talk whiskey. So I'm so fired up about this, and I have you to thank because you watch my stupid whiskey videos and have actually gotten some attention. And someone called me and said, I'll tell you who it is. It's Neil McCready, who is the Rivals Ole Miss guy for rebelgrove.com. If you listen to my radio show, you've heard Neil from time to time come on whenever I need an Ole Miss guy for some Ole Miss perspective. Anyway, so Neil called me, actually while I was doing my radio show today. Neil called and I heard the voicemail, and he's like, hey man, why don't you come on the podcast, which of course I will always. He's like, we're talking some LSU and your love of whiskey. Because Neil and Chase Parham, who's another Rebel Grove guy there for Ole Miss, was like, we love whiskey too. And I'm like, yes, the slimy underground of whiskey lovers. It has penetrated AFR. And now I am doing podcasts to talk about my love of whiskey. So this is an unconventional review today. This is Hochstadter's Slow and Low Rock and Rye, the 6-year-old version right there. Booyah. It is a very salty 100 proof. There's a black label that's 84 proof that you could try out. But I love this. So a little background about me. And something about this is, this is kind of sold and modeled as like a pre-made old fashioned in a bottle. So some of you are probably going to think, how could you possibly drink that? That's like a beer lover drinking a Lime-A-Rita or something like that. If that's how you feel, well, I don't really care. Because as I've told you many times, there's no judgment here. And I drink what I like, and I would encourage you to do the very same. And my objective is to try to tell you about things that I like and give you a review of them. So my great-grandfather, so my mom's grandfather, was a mixologist in New Orleans in the 1920s. Like, he drove a cab and was a mixologist. That's like what he did professionally. And he had an old-fashioned recipe that he made and that my grandfather's made. So I'm very partial to old fashions. So my whole life, holidays, that's what we drink. Like, we'll show up at Father's Day or at Valentine's Day or Easter or Christmas Day, and you've already got the whiskey in, the orange peel and the sugar or the simple syrup, the lemon rind, rub the rim of the glass. Like, it's already pre-made. All you do is add ice. It's already been soaking. The alcohol is just sitting there soaking in the orange. So I love old fashioned. So I was intrigued by this, and my cousin Mark is actually the one who said, dude, you got to try this. Understanding that we grew up in a family that loves old fashions. So I'm going to drink this for you. So again, 100 proof. As you can see on the label, it says exactly what it is. Like, there's no questioning. It's straight rye whiskey with honey and orange peel. It's 100 proof, so it is potent enough to be a drink. It's not so overpowering that it'll make you cry, and it's not too mild. I'll put it to you that way. And by the way, can I just say also, I love the bottle. I love the square bottle. I love the swirl top there, the wide mouth, and like you'll see some beer bottles that do that. It's like a vented top there, so that way you get the big giant pour. Anyway, let's pop this now. For what it's worth, full disclosure, such a good sound. If I were drinking this, not like actually when I finish here, I would absolutely pour this over rocks. But for these purposes, I'll just give myself a little pour there, and I'll continue to give Hochstadter Slow and Low Rock and Rye 6-year. The benefit of product placement right there for the millions upon millions of people that are going to watch this video. Let's go ahead and get the nose. Immediately you smell the orange and the honey. The whiskey is there. Absolutely. The rye whiskey is there, but it's secondary to the honey and the orange. It's not overpowering. It is sweet. I would say if you are someone who's having a party and you're having people over and you're not sure maybe where they might fall in this whole category and you want to try something, this is an awesome option. It's going to run you about $40 or thereabouts, maybe $35, $40 thereabouts. Let's go ahead and get it. Immediately, let me let it finish. immediately, I mean, almost before you even taste it, the first thing is you get that touch of orange and honey, that sweetness right on your tongue. It has, like I mentioned, 100 proof, so it doesn't have a burn, but again, it's potent enough where you know you're drinking a whiskey, and that whiskey flavor will come in, that rye whiskey will come in secondary. If you've watched some of my videos, I'm very partial to rye whiskey. As a matter of fact, this is the first time I've had this neat, and it's actually really enjoyable neat as well. I'm a little surprised by that, quite honestly. Let's go again. The finish is, I think, underrated. It's not as long and as powerful as some of the others. For example, I can go to the top of my shelf, my Whistle Pig Boss Hog, which I've reviewed here as well. If you go click on the whiskey review page, which is just the most fantastic thing I've ever had. But this is so enjoyable. Like I've said so many times here, I come with absolutely no judgments. I say find what you like, drink what you like. If that's a $10 fifth and you want to pour it with Coke or whatever, knock yourself out. If you want to try to take a step up to the next level, but you're maybe not quite ready to go neat on a higher end whiskey, this is something that's affordable, that's flavorful, and I would so very highly, if you love old fashions, and believe me, as I mentioned, I'm snobby about old fashions. It's very hard for me to order an old fashioned at a bar because it's like I was spoiled with a 100-year-old old fashioned recipe my whole life, and so it's very hard to find one. So I go into this understanding I'm not drinking an old fashioned, but I'm drinking something that has some similarities to that. So if you love an old fashioned, or you're just looking for something a little sweeter maybe to get your entry point into drinking whiskey, this is an awesome option. I mentioned the black label. There's also this, which is the orange label, the 6-year. So you'll notice for the Slow Note Rock and Rye 6-year-old. By the way, the name, I did some research on this. This is really cool, the name on the Rock and Rye. So like pre-Prohibition, oftentimes whiskey was served, or rye whiskey was served straight and unaged. I mean, it was just like, here you go, raw. Like gasoline, basically, and it was so awful. Like you couldn't drink it. Like they would serve it with rock candy next to it, sort of to clean your palate and have something sweet. So this actually, if you notice, does have a pinch of rock candy. You'll see right there on the bottom, and a pinch of rock candy right there. So it's kind of playing to that traditional root as well, which I think is a really cool story and a bit of a novelty. So anyway, give it a go, man. If you're interested in trying to find something, as I mentioned, sort of an entry point. As it even mentions it's honoring its 19th century tradition. So as I mentioned, going back to the 1800s. Slow and Low Rock and Rye 6-year. Look for the orange label. Enjoy, as always. Please leave comments, thumbs up, thumbs down. Let me know what you think. If there's anything you'd like for me to review, I'm happy to do that. No, by the way, Matt Moscone YouTube brought to you by Signed, digital autograph app for your smartphone, developed by an LSU alum. It's a free app. Download it on your phone. You'd be doing me a great favor, and you'd be my best friend. Also, please hit the red subscribe button on this page. I would greatly appreciate that. I need to get I'm starting to mention this now, and this I'm begging, but I don't care. A full disclosure: YouTube, to have a verified page, you have to have 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours cumulatively. So I'm about halfway home on both of those, and I am really excited about that, and it's only been a month. So we're really building up some steam and a following, and I appreciate all of you so much who take time out of your day to watch me do these videos. So please comment. I'd love to interact and reply to your comments, and I would absolutely take any suggestions that you have. So in the meantime, I'm going to continue drinking this to prep for my interview tomorrow on the Rebel Grove podcast. So find that on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts, and subscribe to that as well. And you'll hear me talking about whiskey with Neil McCready and Chase Parham of rebelgrove.com. All right, y'all, have a great night. Until next time.